coach at the ESD. And then today we are going to have Robert with us, and he is going to be talking about teaching AI literacy. So that is our main topic. Robert is the CEO and co-founder of the Walla Walla AI business, and I'll let him explain a little bit more about what he does. So Robert, I'll stop sharing the screen so that you can share yours. And I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ayla, for having me on your first kickoff session of this series. So that's truly an honor, and I can't see you guys, but I'm sure you're all smiling and excited to learn about AI. As Ayla said, my name is Robert. I own an AI consultancy in Walla Walla, and I have to always start with a funny story, because when I moved to Walla Walla, people asked me, "What do you do?" And I said, "Oh, I'm in AI," and they said, "Oh, me too, artificial insemination." Um, that's a funny story because that's when I realized that, oh boy, uh, there's definitely needs to be some more AI teaching and knowledge about AI here in, well, I guess in the Valley. I do a lot of projects in Pendleton and the surrounding areas, because, as rural parts of the country, we are fairly underserved when it comes to knowledge of AI literacy, how to approach artificial intelligence. It's coming at us with 1,000 miles. And I wanted to make sure that I help people, and especially educational spaces, understand how to utilize AI, what is AI, what to look out for, where can it help, where should be wary of, and make sure that people have this understanding, because if we wait for too long, we'll be left behind, especially with the speed that the artificial intelligence is kind of permeating everything that we touch nowadays. So when Ayla and I met, we thought this was a great opportunity to help you guys kind of understand a bit how to tackle this 1,000-pound giant that is AI. I know a lot of you are scared of it, and most of the students are already using it. And I know this series of meetings is kind of focused on that. So hopefully, through this series, we can help you guys get a bit better acquainted, feel more confident, um, be a bit less scared of it, and more prepared on how to approach it. And today is the perfect topic, which is AI literacy. We don't want to just jump into a lot of skills, and this is how you use AI, and that's how you use AI. We want to kind of set the stage for you to really understand, what is AI, how to introduce it to kids, how to make sure that the kids have an opportunity to, just as with anything else, whether it's, literature that they are reading, or textbooks, or news online, that they have the ability to be able to parse out what's true, what's not, make sure they understand that AI is a tool. So I'm going to do a little presentation. I understand that for a little bit of this presentation, I will be talking at you. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand or put it in the chat box. And Ayla, I don't think I'll be able to see it as I'm presenting, but please feel free to stop me anytime. I made sure that there is time allocated at the end for any questions. I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions, and I'll do my absolute best to answer all of those. With that said, let me jump into the presentation. Oh, and by the way, I can do actually something cool. I can also share with you guys the link to the presentation so you can actually follow along on your computers if you want, or you can just watch my shared screen. But there you go. You are full of options. Okay, so AI literacy, how to get students to think critically about AI. And what is going to be really surprising about this presentation and what you realize is a lot of these things we already do. A lot of the ways we think critically about AI is already the way we think critically about anything that we read. And, you guys are teachers and educators, so you will already have the skills to know how to talk to the kids about AI. So what I want to make this is a practical guide. So I am going to minimize theory, but just so you guys can understand some things, and then make sure that I can give you some actionable exercises that you can use with your kids to make sure that they really understand what is going on when they are interacting with AI. All right, so some reality check. About 70%, and this is probably already outdated from when I put this together, but about 70% of teens are already using AI in some form of a way. So it's not like we can shield them or guard them from this reality. This is just how it is. They're already interacting with it. A lot of the AI tools offer free subscription, so they don't even need a credit card to use them. Things like ChatGPT and a lot of things that they are already interacting with are already using AI, like Instagram and TikTok. So AI is already a big part of children and adults' life, and they are already using it. Now, it's kind of scary on the other hand that 70% use it, and just over 25% of the teachers really feel prepared to really address the AI literacy in the classroom and curriculum. And it kind of makes sense because when, in 2022, AI kind of became a big boom and everyone started using it, a lot of the educational system became scared. And they decided that because they were not prepared for it, they went with a zero tolerance policy. So they kind of blocked the kids from using it. It was kind of a no-no, which made sense at the time. But 2022 was what, 3 years ago, just over 3 years ago. So AI has grown a lot. More people are starting to use it, and I don't feel like there's any excuse anymore not to really, not to address the elephant in the room, which is artificial intelligence. But in order to address it effectively, we need to be prepared and ready and have an approach to it. And this is hopefully what I can get across to you today. And I'm going to talk about 3 core skills to focus on. And these skills will be more, some of the skills will be more age appropriate for, high schoolers. Some of them will be more for like K-5. Yeah, that is what I'm going to deep dive into right now. So AI literacy. Okay, there are three parts to this from a bird's eye view. There's functional, critical, and ethical literacy. So functional is really, do the kids understand what is AI, how it works on a basic level? And a lot of kids don't actually understand that it's just a pattern recognizing mechanism. Actually, a lot of adults don't understand that either. AI basically learns from examples and patterns it has seen. A lot of the AIs that we use currently have been trained on billions and billions of data points, literature, legal documents, unfortunately read it too. So they're able to pick up patterns in how we humans speak, how we reason, how we generate literature, etc., in order to recreate that to us. So functionally, AI is basically a giant calculator for words. It's not really smart. I will deep dive into this later on. But as a functional way, that's what AI really is. It's basically a mirror back to us humans. It's mirroring everything that we have ever generated in a pattern-like manner. The next part we have is critical literacy. So this is, a student's ability to question and evaluate AI outputs. This is same skills that we use to check for bias, but in this time we just applied for AI. These are the questions of why did the AI give this answer? What if the training data was biased? How reliable is this information? This is critical literacy that we definitely need to teach kids, because they need to understand that the output will be based on what the AI has seen. So if the AI has been trained with heaps and heaps of data from, let's say, our Western culture, that's more likely to be biased towards it, because the pattern reinforcement from the Western culture is much stronger than, let's say, some cultures from other continents. And if we get the kids to really ask these questions as they're interacting with the AI, we can definitely instill some, critical thinking into them when they are using AI. And then the last one, which is, this is a bit more philosophical, and I'd say this is also more for like high schoolers, but it's understanding the real world impacts of AI decisions. What are some of the ethical dilemmas that exist? When is AI use appropriate? Who's responsible for AI decisions? How does the use of AI impact to society? These are very deep questions that we don't really know the answers yet, but if we instill into kids that these are the questions that they need to kind of keep asking all the time, will definitely prepare them for a more mindful approach to using AI. So, as I said, this is just some age-appropriate literacy development. So K-5 is definitely explaining that it's a helper tool. It's a robot, it's good at remembering, but it can't understand emotions or make creative decisions. And then for middle schoolers, I definitely talk about privacy, introduce how AI learns from data, help them understand that every time they're interacting with TikTok or ChatGPT or any solution that uses AI, they are leaving a digital footprint, which is very important for them to understand. And their interactions, interactions with the AI reflects to them back, and it also affects the output of the AI. So a lot of the softwares like ChatGPT is actually building a sort of a profile or an image of who you are based on your interactions. And a lot of the answers that you get back will be more geared towards what you are likely to like. And if kids understand that, then they also understand that every time they're interacted with it, they're also introducing their own bias into it. And then number 3, high school. These are complex implications, but a lot of high schoolers can already have some nuanced conversations and ideas around, what does the future bring, or how does this affect our society, etc. Okay, that was a bit of a theory. I want to kind of jump into a couple of concepts with some activities that you guys could do to help kids kind of get more AI literate. So a core concept to really explain to our young kids is AI isn't magic. It's a pattern recognition. I know it's when you interact with it, it might seem like magic, but it's really just generating patterns that it has seen before. Um, Once the kids understand that it's basically just a giant pattern recognition calculator, they're less likely to be fooled by the AI hype. They're less likely to have um, a skewed concept of who they're interacting with it, what they're interacting with is, that it's not a person, it's not sentient, etc. So these are some. Once they understand it's also pattern recognition, then they also understand that, okay, there are some limitations to what it's outputting. Now, there's a classroom activity that I really like, which you guys probably already do this for other things, but it's the clapping game. So, you divide your class into two sections and you get one group to go out and the other group to create a rule, like clap for words starting with S. And then the other group returns, and every time they speak, the other group will clap for the words that start with S. This is a really good way to demonstrate to them how AI learns through patterns, not necessarily understanding. It's a rule that one of the group has created, and it's just trying to recreate the rule, and the other team is trying to kind of pick up on those patterns. So this is a really fun exercise that you guys can do. Another core concept that I think they should really understand is bias in, bias out. And I already touched on this a little, but AI actually doesn't create the bias. It reveals the bias of the training data it has been trained on. As I said, if the AI is trained on mainly, writings, etc., from Western culture, it's just going to amplify that bias in its outputs. Some examples, early AI face filters couldn't detect darker faces. Translation AI assumed doctors are males, nurses are females, and image AI generates professional as mostly white men. We shouldn't really blame the AI for this. This is more on, the companies and the people who have trained it. They didn't give it a diverse enough training data. And there are some critical thinking questions that you could ask your kids. The link is in the chat, so feel free to, take this presentation and either use it by yourselves or take this as kind of a good jumping off point for some ideas that I put here. And the third core concept is human AI partnership. You guys probably know that there are a lot of kids who are just getting the AI to generate something, and then they copy paste the output and they paste it into Word and submit their essays. What they need to really understand that the best way to interact with AI is partnering with AI, is working with the AI. Because what is AI really good at? It can draft things, it can brainstorm, it can find patterns in, let's say, large Excel sheets, etc. It can do repetitive rule-based tasks or generate multiple options of something really quick. It's really good at that. But where you need the human part is understanding context and nuance. And this is something that AI cannot do. And it's such a big part of what makes us humans, is understanding the context and the nuance, making ethical judgment, creating truly original ideas. Most original ideas come from us humans. And also, AI doesn't have emotional intelligence or empathy. So we need to partner almost with the AI system to be able to give that additional dimension to its outputs, to its generation, to what it's creating, with what actually makes us a human. All right, some practical classroom strategies that you guys can use. These are just guides. So, I made some of these up. So feel free to make this your own. But, create create little exercises, make it fun for them, real or AI Friday, you present 2 pieces of content, poems or news or summaries or stories. And then one needs to be human created, the other needs to be AI generated, basically. And then students can vote and discuss, like, why did they think something was AI, or why did they think something was human written? And the focus of this is not really like, who gets it right, who gets to pick it, but get them used to analyzing a piece of content, whether it's AI or not, because this is going to give them some really great skills, especially as they go out in the world, especially as more of our social media and news, etc., is becoming AI generated. They'll develop these skills that will allow them to be able to think critically. And if they start early enough, they're going to have this ingrained in them, and they'll be able to much better discern in a world that's trying to fool a lot of people with fake information and AI generated content. There's like a critic method for AI fact checking. I just realized that I mixed up I and R, so that's my bad. But this should be a little mental check marks for the kids when they are interacting with AI. Check the source. Where did AI get this information? Can it cite it? If not, investigate further. Investigate independently. If you cannot find a source, how about you double check it using Google, Wikipedia, library sources, or ask your teachers? Have that in you that you want to verify things. Also, they can review multiple tools. If they only use ChatGPT, they could use a variety of tools and just kind of cross-reference to make sure that other AI tools that are amazing, that they're giving consistent answers. Trace original sources. AIs, as amazing they are, and as amazing because I make my living off of using AI, they are prone to hallucinations. And I'm sure you've heard this word before, hallucinations. Hallucinations is when an AI makes something up that doesn't exist with so much confidence that if you're not careful, you will believe it. You probably heard famous cases of lawyers who created different case documents with ChatGPT. And of course, the AI cited cases that didn't actually exist, but it did it with such confidence that nobody bothered to really look into it. So this is tracing original sources is very important, especially when you are dealing with the sensitive, topics or informations. Obviously, if you're asking for a nice bolognese sauce recipe, you might not need to do that. And then identify biases. Consider who created the AI, what data trained it. If you are using an AI that was created in the US, that's going to be very different than one that was created in China, like say DeepSeek. There are going to be different biases built into the machines. And as I said, there might be some low risk tasks that you don't really care about this, but there might be some, important tasks that you might want to double check this. And then confirm with human expertise. I mean, this is for anything really. This is a great tool. You guys are subject matter experts. You're professionals. It's good to instill into the kids to consult with the teachers or trusted experts. If ChatGPT tells you that you have a medical or psychological condition, you might want to double check that with an expert. And then strategy 3, ethical dilemma discussions. This is, again, as I said, more high school level, but this can be a really fun, nuanced conversation, kind of like a what would you do Wednesday scenario. Use the Socratic method, come up with different dilemmas and let them kind of debate, like let them get used to thinking about this. Let's say an idea, your best friend uses AI to write their college application essay, personalizing it slightly, they get into the dream school, while you who wrote it from scratch gets rejected. Do you report them? Do you use AI next time? I think these are some really good things to get kids to start thinking about. And as I said, you should focus less on, what's the right answer, what's the wrong answer, but almost like let them get used to playing around with these ideas in their head. And there are some examples for younger students as well. Okay, so it's purely just a sample timeline, implementation timeline of how you could approach this. First you should start with building a foundation. Start with the kind of the human AI pattern recognition game. Like, that's going to be stuck in them. It's kind of fun. They're going to enjoy that. Try to set the stage with them understanding that AI is a pattern recognition mechanism. Then play around with the detection skills. Can you detect if it was written by AI, or can you detect it if it's written by a human? And why is that? Oh, the AI written stuff seems to, kind of have no soul, and, it says all the right words, but something is missing. Week 4, classroom guidelines, co-create classroom AI policies with students. You might not want to do that. Your school might want that to be more like top down. But I feel like if to some extent you involve the students in it with, all the foundation and the detection skills and kind of all the bias checking and everything skills that they already picked up, that would be, I think, a really, really powerful thing for any school or classroom to go through. And then 1, 2 is subject integration, weave the AI literacy into existing curriculum, do an AI for a history class or an English class about poetry or human creativity. Really, the options are endless here. So some of the things you could do is, have some ready to go lesson plans, use the critic method. These are just some examples that I put here just to kind of get you thinking about it. And then also don't try everything at once. I think that's true for like everything that people are learning. But start with core concepts, build it up, and then expand. So addressing common challenges, this comes up a lot. I talk to different organizations, not just educational, but medical and government organizations. My administration doesn't support teaching AI, how to do that. Maybe this presentation, or I might have kicked off something in you where you can really communicate to your administration that, AI is already here, and us shielding the kids from them is not the right solution. So how about we find a way for them to live with it, just as we did with the internet or the calculator. There was probably no point resisting the internet because although it, produced some unpleasant things, it also created a whole world that produced amazing things. If there are some challenges like students don't have computer access, again, as I said, many of the activities do not actually need technology. It's pattern recognition games, ethical discussion, analyzing printed examples. There are a lot of good ways to at least get some of the ideas into their heads without necessarily using a computer. If parents think AI is cheating, um, be honest and upfront with them and tell them about how collaborative you are and how you're approaching this. Again, just like with the administrators, explain that ignoring one prepares students for reality. You don't want kids to go into the workforce or university, etc., and then have kind of a disadvantage because all the other kids have already spent a lot of time developing these skills. And if you are thinking to yourself that you are not a technology expert, you really don't need to be. You guys need to focus on what you do best, asking the question, facilitating the discussions, teach critical thinking. And also students already know a lot about AI. So if you could kind of facilitate the more experienced adult conversation with them, coupled with the skills that they might have developed in using AI, I think it would be a really powerful partnership with you guys. And then, there are different ways of building collaboration skills with students, um, teach students to work with AI, not necessarily avoid it or just trust whatever the AI is outputting on the first try, create assignments. So make them feel like they are the ones in control and they are the ones that make the output really special or make the end results of whatever they are creating special, not the AI. As I reiterate, AI is a word calculator, and I always tell young kids when I talk to them that you wouldn't trust your calculator to complete your math exam, would you? So why would you trust AI to complete everything for you? It's just a tool, and it's a very powerful tool, and you need to use it. But don't make it into something that it is not. And then lastly, three key takeaways. Start small. I understand that some of you might not even be as experienced, which is really okay because Ayla's full. I think there are like 10 or even more sessions that will gradually take you through becoming more confident, understanding how things work, gain not just theoretical skills, but also very practical skills. Leverage your expertise. You guys are already experts in a lot of these things. All you need to do is making sure that the kids understand that the way you guys already approach a lot of problems and biases and ethical dilemmas also need to be translated into using AI. And also make it collaborative, not prescriptive. It's really powerful when the students also feel like they're part of the process. And it can be a very powerful experience. And they'll also, trust the process. And if you're, you're engaging with them with this, they might feel that using AI is not like a rebel thing to do, but that this is a really responsible way to approach this. Okay, that was about 36 minutes. I'm done with my presentation. I'm always available for a call, or if you want to bounce some ideas around. I understand that today I didn't give very practical skills on how to use AI, but I know that there are plenty of tech talks coming later on that will focus on that. And I think I'll be part of 2 more. And I'm very excited about that. And I am open to questions, which I really hope you have, because I love answering questions. Well, that was either very confusing or so clear that you have no questions.
So I'll ask a question.
Yes.
I know I missed the first part of this, but when I've tried to use AI at all, I guess I wonder which AI sites. I don't know. I'm like not being that familiar with it. Like I just type in like Chat GPT or something, but when I tried doing that this summer, I noticed that even access to that was changing. And I went to School Psych AI for Sophia on their site, and now that's a paid site. So I'm like going, I'm guessing there's a lot of options. What are you thinking about that as far as in the education field?
Sure. Well, the kids will most likely use ChatGPT only because, in the US, that's the most marketed one and the most developed one. But there are some really good ones. You probably heard of Claude and Perplexity, and now people are starting to use Grok. So there are a lot of great tools out there. But if you want to, when you're talking to kids about this, they'll be most familiar with ChatGPT. It is powerful enough. And if you give them the skills, you shouldn't be as weary about how they use it. What they need to understand, though, is if they're using the free version, or even if they pay $20 a month, everything that they are writing or asking ChatGPT is getting fed back, and it's going into further training the models. So if they're putting like personal information or addresses or names of people or phone numbers, that information is going back to the company to further train the machine. There are subscriptions that are more like enterprise or work subscriptions, and they usually incubate your data so it doesn't go back. But that's going into it too deep. But to come back to your question, Rod, the most likely they'll be most familiar with ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is very powerful, and it's one of the top ones. It has a 149 IQ, so it's all right.
Right. Thank you, Robert. Most of our districts have ChatGPT blocked, so it's not available to teachers or students. And as Robert was saying, the free version is not FERPA and COPA compliant. So especially in the special education world, or if you're wanting to get special things around accommodations, modifications, or IEPs. And I know we also have a counselor online as well. You are not going to want to use those. You need to use either a paid version that your department is paying for, or you could use something like School AI. School AI is signed FERPA and COPA agreements with the ESD, and so our IT department is able to get that signed agreements for each of your districts as well. I know we have some Baker people. They could share the agreement with the Baker IT. But since we have that agreement, we are able to share it and get it for all of the districts in the region. School AI does have like a chat feature. A big portion of it is a chat feature. It also has other features, so it's not quite as easy to use as like ChatGPT, where you would just go in and type what you want. Magic School is also a decent option, but most of our districts we don't have FERPA or COPA signed agreements with them. They wouldn't sign it unless your district's willing to pay for it. So you can use the free version with students because it doesn't require them to log in, and it's the same with the School AI has a student version, and both of those will provide some moderation. So especially for younger students, or as you're getting your feet wet and you want to be able to kind of monitor what students are doing or set up specific parameters around the chatting. So not quite as free as probably what Robert would like with student experimentation, or even completely what I would love to be able to see some of our students doing. It does provide a good balance, especially as you're experimenting with students using it in your classroom. Any other questions for Robert?
Ashley has a question.
Yeah, so I have found, and I don't know what all the districts have, our district has added Gemini actually to Google Classroom, and so that's not keeping any of their information. And I found it very useful to actually upload all the state standards, just going ahead and just starting having these little, like, they call it gems. And it's been really useful to have a consistent tone and play around with. So, and it doesn't store the information. So I don't know if that's true across the board.
Yeah, and Gemini is great. It's up there with one of the top ones, and yeah, depending on your subscriptions, it will not hold your data. So I'm glad that you guys have access to that, because it's pretty powerful.
Our other districts are starting to open up the Gemini program as well. So if you don't have it yet, you can ask your IT for it. Okay, well, thank you, Robert. There are a couple things that I did want to also share with you. So our goal, like what Robert shared, is to empower critical thinkers and creators in our students. We don't want them to be taking shortcuts and using it to do the thinking for them. We want them to use AI as like that thinking partner, to go deeper or come up with new ideas, and to focus on the process of learning over the product. So a couple resources. Robert did a great job of sharing some ideas of lessons that you could incorporate. There are a couple different programs that have some of those, like kind of pre-made lessons. ISTE and Common Sense both have some. And so the document I shared in chat will share some of the lesson plans. They're mostly geared towards high school students, although Common Sense Media does have digital citizenship type lessons for elementary. It's not quite the AI lessons. But they've got a whole set of AI lessons for high school students and middle school students that could be useful, that you can use rather than creating from scratch. So a couple of those resources, just so you can kind of see what they look like, similar to what Robert was sharing with you. The Teach AI resources don't necessarily go into detail with some of the lessons, but they will give you a variety of different type of topics. So engaging with AI, creating with AI, managing with AI, and designing with AI. And then those will give you a primary education scenario and a secondary education scenario, which is more similar to some of the things Robert was sharing. And so it gives you an idea of some of the activities that you could do to engage your students with these different topics and get them more AI literate. And then the ISTE programs have downloadable guides for secondary, for elementary, for electives teachers, an ethical one if you're doing any kind of ethical class or you want to pull in some of those pieces. And they'll have different sets, and this is a fully involved units that you could use to dive deeper. And so they have a secondary one and an elementary one, and those go pretty deep. So for this elementary one, like what does AI do well and not do? It's a 4 to 5 hour unit that you can spread over a week, appropriate for all subject areas. It will tie in with the ISTE standards and the AI pieces that it will cover. It will give you preparation and materials and all of the links to everything that you need. So they're pretty in-depth lessons to help teach AI literacy to your students. So I just wanted to make sure that you had those. So if you're not sure where to start between Robert's ideas and some of these pre-made things from reliable sources, that you've got a jumping off point to work with students. So any last thoughts, questions? All right. Thank you so much for coming out, Robert.
I just want to give a tip. If you haven't already, just start messing around with AI systems and try to use them, because that will give you an idea of what the student experience is and what is the world of possibility that exists out there. And I know that the way Ayla done this whole set of tech talks, it's you will learn deeper and deeper and more complex skills on how to use AI, but it will be really powerful if you haven't, to at least play around with it, just so you can see what the experience is. That's it.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope to see you next time.
Thank you.